Okay, we're at the Mishnah on the bottom, the second Mishnah. Well, it's not the only one that starts on Kuf Nun Vav Amud Beis. Rebbe Eliezer Omer, B'Shabbos Dvar Kayamim Neishin Yachal Lichtav Avaloi B'Chal. So first, we'll just remind ourselves of what we saw in the previous Mishnah. Good Vachar Fall. We're on the Mishnah on Kuf Nun Vav Amud Beis.
I'm sorry, Kuf Ben Vav?
Kuf Nun Vav Amud Beis.
Kuf Nun Vav Amud Beis.
We had seen the Mishnah on the last Mishnah, where we came up with a brand new shita that says that a shchimera has to make a kinyan, otherwise it's not going to work. And that was Rebbe Eliezer. Now we're going to come up with another shita. Rebbe Eliezer Omer b'Shabbos dvar kayamim eishen yachal lichtav avaloi b'chal. Rebbe Eliezer says this, that he holds sort of like Rebbe Eliezer. He says on Shabbos, during the week, it's like Rebbe Eliezer that you have to make a kinyan, just like any other kinyan. Shchimera is not excused. He has to get a star. It's not going to work. But on Shabbos, we're worried about Shema Titrav Daita. We're worried he's going to get upset if he's not able to give away his belongings. And you can tell him it's Shabbos, we can't write it down, we can't make a kinyan. So therefore, the Chachamim Misaken that you can do a Matna Shchimera on Shabbos without making a kinyan. Again, like the baseline until now was every Matna Shchimera, when a person is sick, can be done without a kinyan. We saw Rebbe Eliezer who said, Rebbe Eliezer, in the previous Mishnah, who said you always have to make a kinyan, even on Shabbos. Now we're seeing the third shita that Rebbe Eliezer holds only on Shabbos can you make a matna shchimera without a kinyan. Rabbi Yeshua, b'Shabbos amru kal v'chayim b'chal. Rabbi Yeshua, who's essentially the shita that we've been saying from the beginning, he says, if you're allowed to make on Shabbos matna shchimera without a kinyan, so certainly you could do it on during the chayil, when on Shabbos you're really not supposed to make a kinyan at all. So if you're allowed to make a matnas shchimera and he doesn't have to on Shabbos, and we're not worried about the fact that on Shabbos you're making you're not allowed to make any kinyan on Shabbos. We're saying but we're allowing him to do it because we're worried he's going to be upset because he can't make he can't write a shtar. So during the week, certainly, when it's mutter to make a kinyan, we're going to allow him to make a kinyan without writing it down, without making a shtar. Okay, so that's the Rishua is essentially the shita that we've been talking about from the beginning. A similar discussion obtains. They didn't have zachan l'katan ve'zachan l'gadol. Divrei Rebbe Eliezer. Eliezer says you can be zeicha on behalf of a katan, but you can't make you can't, if someone wants to be makna, this is not talking about a shchimera. This is talking about stamazay, a din that you want to, Reuven wants to give something to his younger brother Binyamin. So we say, if he wants to give it to Binyamin's not there. So if Binyamin is a gadol, then if Binyamin's a gadol, you can't do a schia on his behalf because you can for a gadol he can be kind himself. But a katan, since he's not able to make be zeicha in something, so therefore the chacham allows someone else to be zeicha on his behalf, which is very similar to the svara that we said the gabi Shabbos, the gabi matna shchimera. We say since a kinyan is not allowed on Shabbos, so therefore the chacham allowed you to make a matna shchimera without a kinyan. But during the week when you could make a kinyan, therefore you have to make a kinyan. So the same thing over here. A gadol, since he can make a kinyan, he has to make a kinyan. Since he can't make a kinyan, the chacham allowed it to be done on behalf of by another person. Rabbi Yeshua, the katan amru v'kal v'chayim l'gadol. Say the other way around. Listen, if you can make a schus, if one person can be zeicha on behalf of a katan who's not allowed to make a kinyan on his own, zicher a gadol who is able to make a kinyan, someone else could do it on his behalf, and it's again tracks the svara that we have the gabi matna shchimera on Shabbos. Rabbi Yeshua says if you can make a kinyan on Shabbos which you're not allowed to normally make any kind of kinyan on Shabbos. But we say you're allowed to make a mamash chimera without writing a star because of Shema Titra of Daita. So certainly during the week when there's no problem with making a kinyan, we're going to allow him to make a kinyan without making a star with just an oral kinyan. So Mastis and money. Who is our Mishnah going like? Rabbi Yehuda. This is going like Rabbi Yehuda. Now we're going to say that because it's going to be machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir about what this machlekes Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua was. So we're going to say in a minute. We're going to say Rabbi Yehuda has the nusach that we have in the Mishnah, but Rabbi Meir has it the other way around. So now we're going to say Rabbi Meir, who has an alternate version of this Mishnah's machlekes. The Tanya, Meir Omer Rabbi Eliezer Omer b'chayil dvar kayam neshi yachal lichtav. He says during the week. Rabbi Eliezer says during the week it's good because he could write avaloi b'Shabbos, but not on Shabbos. So since it's exact opposite of our Mishnah, according to Rabbi Meir, he says that it's kol she'bilasai. What's the word? Or the Rashbam brings it. But it's whenever you need to do something and you're not able to do it, that passes. It's kol she'tzarich bila bilasei makabes. Kol she'etzarich bila ein bilasei makabes. So Rabbi Eliezer holds that since on Shabbos you are you're not allowed to write, so therefore you have to write, and therefore it's not going to work. But during the week, when you could write, then it's not necessary. Right? This is the svara that we've seen a number of times, that when something is required, then if something is disallowed, if something is required, and you're unable to do so, then it becomes ma'akev. But if you don't need to do it, then it's not ma'akev. So during the week, when ksiva is allowed, then it's not necessary even to do the ksiva. You can even give it orally. Masha Ein Kain. That's Rabbi Meir's version of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua Aimer b'chayil amru kal v'chayim l'Shabbos. Rabbi Yeshua comes out with the same psak. He says on both of them, but he says the kal v'chaymer is the other way around, which is an obvious kal v'chaymer. He says exactly the opposite svara. If you can do it, which is really the svara that we said to Rabbi Eliezer before, according to the Mishnah, that if you could do it during the week, when it's not necessary, certainly on Shabbos, when you need to be able to do it, and there's a svar Shema Titra of Daita, so we allow him to make we allow him to make Matnash Chimera al Peh. And then they also have the same machlekes, also reversed legabe schia. Zachal legadol and zachal lekatan. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. It says you can be zaycha for a gadol because the gadol himself could be kind. But you can't be zaycha for a katan since he himself is not able to be kind. You can't be kind in his behalf. Yeshua begadol abu kavachayim bekatan. He says the other way around. For katan, if for gadol it's not needed for. Certainly for a katan, who needs it? Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, so that's Rabbi Meir's version of the machlekes, which is the opposite of the way we have it in Mishnah. But Rabbi Yehuda has our version. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer b'Eliezer Aimer b'Shabbos dvar kiyam nesheni yachal lichtav avaloi b'chayil. Rabbi Yeshua Aimer b'Shabbos Aimer kavachayim b'chayil kiyotze v'zachan l'kaden then zachan l'gadol Rabbi Yeshua Aimer l'kaden Aimer kavachayim l'gadol, which is exactly the nusach that we explained in our Mishnah.
Why is it that cotton can't be coin? I thought cotton could be coin. He can't be makna.
I think the Chachamim made a takana that a cotton can be kind of things in order to be able to survive. Like, can go to the store and buy things. I think me'ikar adin a cotton is not able to be kind of. I think it's takana Chachamim that, but midaraisa I think he can't. Right. What does the Rashbam say about this? Zachal lekatan hayol ve'ein lo yad liskos la'atzmai. Mamad shenoisen lo tiknu chacham she'acha zoichu makabel letzarchai. He's not able to be zeicha on his own. He can't be kind on his own. I think that a cotton can only buy things like for everyday needs. I don't think he's able to buy like a karka. I think it's I seem to remember back from Ksubis, those were the restrictions. Does that sound familiar, Lizzie?
Yes.
That's what I seem to remember it is that he can make like everyday living purchases. You go to the supermarket, and he could also, I think, even sell things on that level, but he's not able to buy a karka.
But what about Zakalot and Shalab B'Fonov? I mean, it's a schia, so he'll get it when he's bar mitzvah.
That's exactly the question that we're covering over here. Does Zachan La'adam give him, one man the Amr says, Zachan La'adam gives him kaichas that he wouldn't have others. But the other one says, no, he's limited, since he's limited what he himself could be kaina, so no one else can go do it on his behalf. They don't have more power than he himself has. They're just agent, right? Almost like a shliach. But if he himself can't do it, then they can't do it for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Zok the Mishnah. Now we're going to get into a bunch of one of our favorite topics, shibudim, liens. The whole topic of the a lekeach can have his property that he bought seized, and under what circumstances. Zok the Mishnah. Nofel abayis olav al oviv like olav al merisha. If a house fell on Ruvain together with his father Yaakov, right? And we don't know who died first, or some other Merishav is a different Merish, someone else who Ruvain can inherit. But we'll stick to, it doesn't really make a difference. We'll stick to just Yaakov. Yaakov, his father, died together with Ruvain. We don't know who died first. And Ruvain had debts. He owed money to a Baal Chayv, he owed someone money, or he owed money to his wife. But again, at this point, at least for today, it's not going to be negay of which one. He has a Baal Chayv who he owes money to. Gershei ha'av oimrim, so Yaakov are the Yershim. Shimon and Levi, the brothers of Ruvain, say, Haben meis rishon. They say Ruvain died first, v'ach kach meis ha'av, and then afterwards Yaakov died. What's the consequences of that? That means that when Yaakov died, Reuven was not alive to yarshin him, and therefore Reuven's Balei Chayvis, the people who his creditors, cannot take the money, Yaakov's Yerusha, from Reuven's yarshin. That means, let's say Reuven was penniless when he died. His father Yaakov had $1,000. And Reuven owed $500. So let's say he had he had $3,000, and he owed $500. So if Yaakov died first, then Reuven and Shimon and Levi each yarshin $1,000, right? Shimon and Levi are going to keep their $2,000, and Reuven's $1,000, $500 of it is going to go to this Baal Chayv. I mean, eventually it will go to, okay. We'll leave out that part. But now the Mishnah continues, but the person who Reuven owed money to said, they say the father died first, Yaakov died, his $3,000 was divided up. I'm sorry, this is what we said first. We said first that if Yaakov died first, then Reuven yarshin, and he has $500 to pay to his Baal Chayv. But if it's the other way around, if Reuven died first, then when Yaakov died, the entire Yerusha goes to Shimon and Levi, and there's nothing. So they're each going to get $1,500, and Reuven's Baal Chayv is going to get nothing. So the Baal Chayv are saying, "Ha'av meis rishon, v'acham meis haben." Right? The Mishpacha is saying that that Reuven died first, so therefore they get the whole Yerusha. The Baal Chayv are saying, no, Reuven got a Yerusha. At that point, the Baal Chayv, were entitled to get that 500. And now, after Reuven died, that his $1,000 that he got from Yaakov goes to Reuven's Yarshim, to Pelas, I guess. I think that's Reuven's son. So we'll take the $500 from Reuven's Yarshim. So Beishamai Oimrim, in that case, Yachloiku. He says the din is Yachloiku. We don't know what happened. So they have to divide. They're going to have to divide the Yerusha. Yeah. He says no. It's since the father had the money, and as far as we know, it was in his rishus, and he died. So it goes to his yarshim. To say that the Bali Chayv are coming to take out money. They're coming to be Motzei Mam. They say there's a debt to us, so we want to be Motzei. So that is.
Is this a Motzei Mechaver Olav Haraya? Is that
well? It's a lot more than that. I mean, there's a whole discussion in the Rashbam. What he says it comes down to is the rule that what the Shammai will hold is that a Shtar Chayv is considered to be it's a kagavi dummy. As soon as someone has money, and the Bal Chayv has a lien on that money, it's as if it's already in his hands.
But Reuben doesn't have the money.
According to Beis Shammai, the Yarshim for sure have a right to the money, and this is what I was trying to avoid before. The Yarshei Ha'av, they for sure have a right to the money, both mitzad the father and mitzad Reuven. If they're a Yarshim of the father, they're also, to a certain extent, Yarshim of Reuven.
Correct.
They for sure have a hand in this money.
Right.
The Bal Chayv, according to Beis Shammai, he has maybe, if it's true that Yaakov, that the father died first, then Reuven has the money, and they have a chayv on it. So he says that's a suffix. So therefore, they're coming to be Motzei Mam, and it's like you said, you can't Motzei Mechaver. It's not really a raya.
That's not Beis Shammai. That's the opposite, but that's not Beis Shammai. In other words, the credit is
saying that
Yachloiku, meaning that in other words.
No. Shammai says Shtaro and Ligvitz could go with them. So
right.
I was explaining Hillel's time.
Right.
Why it would remain by the Bnei Mishpach. I'm saying why the Muchzik. You were asking why is it Muchzik? That's
I think to me it makes sense. In other words, then the creditors can't prove. There's no way to prove that Reuven ever got the money.
Right.
Even if I'm a Ligvais, even if I'm a
No. But if it's I'm a Ligvais, then we say Yachloiku.
Why?
Because then they're not any less. The Balei Chayv are not any less of a muchzik than the Yarshim. As soon as if on the tzad that Reuven died, the Yaakov died first, they got immediately their hands on it. It's not. You're saying you're talking about rayas, and it's not a question of rayas. It's a question of who's a muchzik. We're not trying to. It's not that there's any more chance or less chance whether you say kagavi dami. It's a question of who is considered to have the upper hand because it's in their possession. So on the tzad that Yaakov died first, it was already in the possession of these Balei Chayv, and then the Yarshim become the ones who are trying to be mitzvah from their hands. So therefore, it's Yachloiku. But if you don't start kagavi dami, since they're only certain, the Bnei Mishpacha, they're only certain muchzakim, so then the other ones are considered to be. Yeah, I was going to see if I could just skip over this, but that's the svara behind it. Zok Gemara, Tanan Hasan. We saw right. Zok Gemara, Tanan Hasan. Hamal v'schaber b'shtar, gaiven b'chasam b'shubadim. If Reuven lends money to Shimon with a shtar, and then Shimon has no money to pay back, so Reuven can be gaiva from Shimon's nechasim b'shubadim, meaning if Shimon sold something after the loan, then Reuven can take it away from the lekucha, so the people who purchased from Shimon. Al yedei edim, but if the loan from Reuven to Shimon was made through edim, then Reuven can only take from the cash or the metaltalin or karka that Shimon is holding, but not what he has already dispensed. Is what he sold. The people who bought it, they'll tell Shimon, how was I supposed to know that you have a loan out? You didn't put it into a star. Or they'll tell it really to Reuven, who's coming to try to get his loan paid back. They'll tell Reuven, you should have put it into a star, so we would have noticed that there was an outstanding loan, and then we wouldn't have bought from him. Boy Shmuel. So Shmuel asks the question on this rule. The ikni v'kana mahu. What happens about if like we said, Reuven lent money to Shimon? So we say, and he did it with a shtar. So there really should be a shibud on the possessions of Shimon, that anything that Shimon sells, Reuven should be able to be given from the lekuchas. What happens if Shimon purchased karka after the loan was put into place? So he didn't have it at that time. The ikni v'kana mal. Ali b'deremnei da'amar adam makna davar shelo b'aylam loyti b'aylam. The vade kana. If you say, so the question really is, we assume is that the borrower is makna a shibud to the seller. So this, and we're talking about where even where the seller says, I want to have a shibud on anything that you own now and what you will own in the future. The question is, can the borrower, who's also going to be the seller, can he make such a shibud to his creditor, to his lender? So according to a mayor that says you are able to makna davar shelo b'aylam, so he's being makna this shibud that he's going to get when he's going to get karka in the future. He's saying, I'm going to make a shibud on it. But our question is according to Rabban, the Amri ain't the makna davar shelo b'aylam. According to them, what's going to be the din? Amar of Yosef, Toshma. Yosef says, I'll bring a raya on this question. Can you create a shibud? Can a borrower create a shibud on something that he's going to purchase after the loan was made? Right? We always say that whatever he sells after the loan was made, the lender can repossess it from a lekuchas. Does that even apply to something that the borrower first acquired after the loan was put into place? It wasn't capable of being made at that time. So the question is, can it go into effect even though it's not currently here? What's the din? Zok the Gemara, Tashma. So this is talking about Reuven again lent money to Shimon. And now he's going to Shimon. He says, I want my money back. And Shimon says to him, first of all, Shimon could either say, it never happened, I never borrowed money from you, or he says, I already paid you back. And he says, I even can prove to you that, he says to Bezdin, I'll prove to you that I don't owe Reuven any money. Here's a shtar where Reuven sold me a piece of karka. The loan he's claiming was a year ago. And a week ago, he just bought a piece of karka for the same amount of money as the value of the original chayv. He says to Shimon,
from him.
He bought from Reuven a piece of karka. He's saying that they both agreed to, that there was a sale. He borrowed $1,000. Reuven is saying that I owe him $1,000 from a year ago. And look, here's a bill of sale that I just bought a piece of karka from Reuven for $1,000. He says to them, listen, if I really owed Reuven $1,000, how would he have given me a piece of karka and then taken $1,000 for the karka? He'd say, I'll just take the $1,000 and I'm not giving you a piece of karka. You owe me $1,000. Why should I give you a piece of karka for nothing? You owe me the money anyway. So the Chavim say, they say, no, that's not a taina. Shimon has no taina there because Reuven figured he'll be smart. He's a pikech. He'll sell the piece of karka. Now Shimon has a piece of karka, and he'll say, "Oh, look, here's my shtar." Now that piece of karka is going to be meshubed, and if Shimon now tries to sell it, he's going to go take it from the kuchas because this all happened after the original shtar chayv. So Zak the Gemara, this is a raya that you can get a shibud on something that was acquired after the chayv, after the loan. Amalei Rava, Minei Kamar. You're saying that there's a shibud on that which the borrower acquired from the lender. Minei Afilu Migdinat al Kaspa. That which was saying that something that the owner, that the that the owner acquired from someone else, that whether he could take it from the owner, from the borrower, he could take anything from the borrower. So he's figuring, the lender is figuring, I'll give him the karka and then I'll go take the karka away from him. Doesn't have to. He figures this is going to make it easier for me because the karka's right there. He's not necessarily thinking about getting it from a lekeach. He's saying, I'll give him the money. I'm having a hard time getting money from him, so I'll pay him $1,000 for the karka, and I'm sorry, I'll take his $1,000 and give him the karka, and then I'll take back the karka right away because he could take anything from any bnei chayron he could take from him. He come me boilon. The ikni kanu macha, the ikni kanu mayrish. Our question only is where he had gotten something and then disposed of it, whether he can take it from a lekeach or from someone who yarshin. But if it's still in the possession, so the lender will certainly feel like he's improved his position because there's a piece of karka that he can go track down and take away from him. Rav Chan, I'm sorry, Tashma. I'll bring you a different ride. From our Mishnah. Nachal habayis olav al oviv. Olav al merisha. Haisa olav ksubas ishu bal chayv. Yershe avar ben meis rishon. Ach meis av. Al chayv is avar meis risha. Right. Our case of our Mishnah, we said if Ruvain, Yaakov and Ruvain went into a house and they both died, and the Yarshim of Yaakov are saying that Ruvain died first, and therefore we Yarshim everything from Yaakov, and the Baal Chayv of Ruvain is saying no, that Yaakov died first, Ruvain Yarshim, and therefore our Chayv can be taken from the Yerusha, from Ruvain's Yarshim, because Ruvain got the money, and therefore there was a Chayv that we can take. If you say there's no shibud on something that was acquired after the Yerush, after the chayv was started, after the loan was made, what does it help that the father died first? The iknihu. I'm sorry. It's still something that was acquired after the loan, right? We're talking about a loan that Reuven had made a long time ago, and we're saying something that Reuven got because supposedly Yaakov died first. Doesn't make a difference if we're saying that you can't. It's not meshubed. How does it help the position of these lekuchas? Amalahu Rav Nachum and Zeira, Zeira Chavrin Tirgama. Our Chaverim explain this. It's not coming, that which the Yarshim are going to pay is not coming over there because of a Shiba. Taka, it could be the Taka, something, a Kenyan, something that the person gets, that a borrower gets after the loan was put in place, is not Meshullah. But over here, the reason why the Bali Chayvis want to say that Reuven died after Yaakov is because then it will be incumbent on the Yarshim to pay, not al Shibud, but a mitzvah al Yisrael l'frei Chayvis Avim. Because there's a mitzvah, it's a separate din, that there's a mitzvah for Yisrael to pay their father's chayv. So if they get money that comes from a chayv, they have to pay it back, not midinei Shibud, but midin the mitzvahs of a Yarsh. Maskal Rav Ashi asks a further question. Milval Pehu. L'chayra, this, if this chiyuv on the Yarshim is only because mitzvah l'yisayim l'fraya chayves aviyim, that's not a milva al shtar. That's like a milva al peh, right? That the Gemara is making an assumption here, but that's incumbent on the Yarshim to pay, we're saying, is no longer medine shibur, but rather it's a specific mitzvah. It's a chiyuv on Yarshim to pay back. That is similar to a milva al peh. If it now is only a milva al peh, then there wouldn't be a mitzvah al yisayim l'fraya. They only there is a mitzvah al yisayim is only on a milva that is documented in a shtar. But this shibud we're conceding is not a shibud, but rather it's only coming because of the mitzvah al yisayim. That mitzvah al yisayim can't be such a mitzvah, because isn't
this like a contradiction in any way?
He's saying that we thought originally that there's a new din, that a mitzvah al yisayim, so it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
Milva peh. Like what do you? It seems like you're just throwing in things like just to confuse things, but to make it like.
I guess the chachamim misakin ke'en deraisa.
No, but it's like you're going ahead and saying that mitzvah yisayim l'fraya chayves aviyim, right? Then obviously it's not milva al peh, because milva peh you can be goyim in a yarshin. So
I'm sympathetic to your question.
It's like,
so that's all I can really say.
Yeah,
it has to. The answer has to be that to some extent the form of the shibud, even when you say that the mitzvah al yisayim l'fraya mitzvah aviyim, it has to be a type of chayv that is similar to the type of chayv that of a milva b'shtar, not the type of chayv that's a milva al peh. So if we're creating a new chayv, this new chayv clearly has no roots in the milva b'shtar because it's a brand new chayv. So therefore, that couldn't be incumbent on them. So we can avoid the problem. It's obviously not a brand new shibud, but it's the shibud changes into mitzvah al yisayim. But this is too far of a change to say that there's no shibud. If you hold, essentially what we're saying is, if the din is that there's no shibud on something that was created after the death of the father, that is too amorphous. That is too untethered in an actual chayv, a shibud b'shtar, for even Yisayim to have a mitzvah to do it. Like I said, I'm sympathetic to your question, and I'm just saying the words what the answer has to be. Yeah. So therefore, we wanted to So now we're saying that it doesn't work to say this eitzah that it's because of a mitzvah al yisayim. So the question is, l'chayr, it seems like we have a raya that you can be kind of something la'achar, that the borrower, if you acquire something after the loan, it is mishub, but it would seem. So no, it could be. This has nothing to do with that question, because we said our question is only in the Chacham, and this is going in the Rameh. Amr Rabbi Yaakov, min har b'koid mishmei Ravina toshmal. Bring you another right. Shtori chayv hamgdonim psulin. If someone predates the shtar chayv, that's possible for obvious reasons, right? Because then, if let's say in our case, where Ruvain lent money to Shimon, if they write that if the loan really took place on December 1st, and they write that it was written on November 1st, so then if Reuven comes to collect karka that Shimon had sold, he'll even collect from karka that was sold in November. So that's a big problem. But if it took place on December 1st alone, and they write that it's taking place on January 1st, that's okay. If we're saying this din that you can't, something that is acquired after the loan took place is not meshubed, mocher na Mike Sharon. The iknihu, right? Something that was purchased, if they made the loan on December 1st and they wrote in it on January 1st, something that was purchased on December 15th will appear to be that it was purchased before the date of the loan. But really, it's after the date of the loan, and therefore it shouldn't be meshubed. Okay. Now we get to the hard part. Amar of Misharshia, Mishmei de Rabba. Toshma. L'shvach harkois ketza. What's the din of shvach karkois? So we've had shvach karkois a couple of times. Every time it's more confusing than the last. So we explain what's the case of shvach karkois. Harisha macha sadu l'chaveru. Ruvain, so Ruvain borrowed money. It's not what we said so far, but Ruvain lent money to Shimon, and then Shimon sold a piece of karka to Levi. And Levi took that karka and he improved it. It got worth more. Then Reuven came, the tarfa. Shimon owes me money. He doesn't have any money, so I'm going to take this piece of karka that Levi bought from Shimon and he improved it, and now I'm going to take it back for my chayv. Shugoiva. Now Levi is going to go back to Shimon and say, "You owe me money for this karka that I bought that was repossessed." So when he goes to Shimon, he can even take any other land that Shimon had sold after. If Reuven sold other land to Yehuda, Levi can go to take the money that Shimon has to pay him back for the land that was repossessed. He can go take it from Yehuda, who bought property from Shimon after his sale. That's a shvach, but the extra value that he had improved the land, now Shimon owes money to that. He can only take from nechasim b'nei chayrin of Shimon, not from the nechasim mishubadim, from something that he sold. If you say that there's no shibud on something that was created after a loan, how can Reuven take the shvach, what was increased in the value of the land that Shimon had sold to Levi? How can he take the shvach? L'chayra, that shvach, it's something that was created after the original loan, that's owned. That means that even though it wasn't there, b'shas the original loan was made, it's still something that can become meshubed. So you see, l'chayra, it's a raya that you can create a shibud even after by something that's acquired, or in this case, that's created after the original shibud. Right. So we're not really talking about the din over here. We're not talking about the din that what he can get from Shimon. That we say it's a difference between what he can get for the shvach and what he can get for the actual principal. The point is the fact that he can collect shvach means that that Shimon, that Reuven is entitled to take shvach in the first place. And the fact that he's going to get it compensated for the shvach that he gave to Reuven. So fine. So again, we say our all-purpose tariffs that we've given to every question. So tomorrow, intum saloim de ikni kana umacha de ikni kana v'hirish loy mishtab. The Gemara asks the question: if we'll say that something that taka, there's no shibud for something that's created after a loan, halay mishtabed, then it's not mishtabed. There's nothing to talk about. Imsil Teloim Mishtabed, but if you'll say, on the other hand, that it is Mishubed, that it does become Mechuyev, then we have another question, a new question that will arise on that. So there's a new question that on the tzad that we say that it is Mishabed, that's something that came into possession of the lender after the original Shiba. Loiva the lava, if Reuven lent money to Shimon, and then I'm sorry, Reuven lent money to Shimon, and then Shimon went and also borrowed money from Levi. Right? He borrowed from two separate people. The chaz of a kana. And now Shimon he bought some land. Mao. Lekam Meshabed or Lebas Meshabed? Does he owe the money? Who's Meshubed? Who has Kedima on this which was acquired afterwards? Normally, on something that was acquired before, whoever made the loan first has the first rights, right? The priority goes to whoever has the prior loan. He gets the first priority. But over here, something that was acquired afterwards, what do we say? Do we say the first one gets the first priority because obviously his, like every case of a lien, the first lien always goes first? Or do we say when Shimon acquired that property, so he was creating a new shibud now to Shimon? So now do we say that shibud cancels his intention with creating the shibud to Shimon? To the second one was intended to cancel his prior shibud to Reuven. Right. So, Zakti Gemara, Amr of Nachman, Hamilsi Boyalon. We had this question with Shalchum Yitom, and they told us from Eretz Yisrael, Rishon Kana. It goes to the first one like the traditional rules of priority. The first one gets the priority. Ravuna Amar Yachlaiku. Ravuna says Yachlaiku. It doesn't really mean Yachlaiku. What it means is that it's gonna be Meshubet to both of them, and it's gonna be in proportion to how much of a loan each one has. If one was owned 200, the other one's owned 100, so they're gonna do it at a 2-to-1 ratio. They're gonna divide up that property. Amravina Madura Kama de Ravashi Amalan. The first version of Rav Ashi, meaning of the person who made the Amoira who wrote the Talmud, Amalan Rishon Kana. Madura Basra Rashi Amalan Yachleiku. The different versions of the Talmud had different. I never saw this formulation that the Talmud Bavli had different psakim. They say, I was recently reading that the Yerushalmi is not as learned as the Talmud Bavli because the Talmud Bavli is later and it was more corrected. It was more finalized. So it'd be interesting to see if the Yerushalmi has like the Madura Kama, which should theoretically be the case. The halacha is taka yachleiku, that it's divided. In fact, the Gemara Meisvei l'shvach hakoyz ketzad. Going back to our original this price we both looked for. What happens with the improvements that happened in the karka? And if we're going to say that the din is yachlaiku, the Gemara is suggesting that this should really be that it's this. That we said that if it's loiv of a loiv, if there were two people who were owed money, then we're going to say we don't say either one has kadima, and therefore you have to divide it up. But in this case, the person what we said, Shimon had borrowed money, and he said anything that he's going to get afterwards is meshubah. And then he sold his karka, and he said, I have to pay back. If this gets taken away from you, I have to pay back. And we said if the improvements are going to be paid from his bnei chayr. So we say the cheshbon of the Gemara at that point was that since Shimon, who is the borrower and the seller, he has to pay for. How does it work that Reuven can take the improvements to Shvach? It's because when Shimon sold it to him, he was makabel that if any improvements are taken away from you by the lender, I'm going to pay back. So it's as if Shimon already purchased it. So it turns out that both Reuven has a right to these shvach, as well as the purchaser has a. In the meantime, he has a shiba that he's able to use the karka. So they both have a shibud on the karka. So we're looking at it as if they both are meshubah. And this is something that wasn't there b'shas ma'isa. So it's something that was created later. So l'chayra, it shouldn't be that the whole thing goes, the entire shvach is taken by Reuven. It should have been divided in half and half. My goyvenami, that's what we were talking about. We were saying that when Reuven comes to take it, he only takes taka half of the shvach, and never meant to say that he gets the whole thing. Okay, we'll stop over here. Thank you so much for your patience. I know we went long, but I know you would have much preferred this